Welcome to the Inspirational Leaders series, a collection of short interviews with sharp, impactful people that I know and respect because the business world needs more refreshing people like them. And my name is Teresa Brazen. I am a leadership and executive coach for design leaders and design leadership teams. I help them maximize their impact and elevate design in their organizations. And today I am really excited to have a conversation with Ghazal Badiozamani, who is a founder or the founder of ClearHead Advisory. She helps companies define business and product strategies, develop high-performing teams, build customer-centered products and services in healthcare, life sciences, education, technology. And she also has many, many years of experience in the corporate strategy and product management spaces. And the thing that is really intriguing about her for me, and part of why I invited her to have a conversation today, is because she is someone who cares about and thinks about being an empathetic and decisive leader who thrives when problems are thorny and complex. So Gazelle, I really appreciate you being here with me today. Thank you for making time.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to join you. I'm super excited to chat with you today.
Yay. All right. So we are here to talk about leadership and your experience with leadership, things, how you think about it, what you've learned about it, all in service of trying to help the people that are listening and watching, think about it more deeply or maybe in different ways than they have before. So why don't we start bigger picture with just leadership in general. And I'm curious for you, what is it that inspires you and attracts you to being in a leadership position or being a leader for others?
One of the things that I think really drives us, all of us in our lives, what gives us our reason for waking up are our core values. And growing up, one of the core values that was instilled in me was that if you are in a position to help someone else, you should. In fact, you have the responsibility to do so. And so as one develops in their career, maybe because of technical skill, maybe because of other factors, you find yourself in a leadership position where you have a team or you're building an organization from scratch. That mentality of how do I help the people around me achieve their goals, reach their full potential is the thing that drives leadership, right? And is what a good leader is, at least in my mind. It's also kind of selfish. I watched this interview with the Dalai Lama, and he talked about selfish good. Like you have to do things. So like helping others makes you feel better about yourself. So that's something that's like selfish good. You should do it. Right. Whereas like, doing something because of greed or just because you want a fancy car, it's like probably shouldn't do that. So it's this sort of selfishness, right? That when I see that my team members flourish and sort of break through their blockers, makes me feel good. So it's good all around.
So I think you're honing in on this idea of like leadership as a service to others.
There's a whole field of conversation around this concept of servant leader and being the servant leader. The idea is that if you are as a leader, just thinking about how to empower your teams, how to give them the skills or the resources or just the space to do what they need to do, then they will probably outpace your expectations. And in the same way, if you have that same mindset with your peers, where if you and your peers know each other's goals and are actively helping each other to achieve their goals, whether they're personal or professional development goals, then you become a better team. Like, in fact, that's what a team is, right? And that's how you create this culture of collaboration that everyone is seeking. It's not offsites and conferences and like fun events. It's really paying attention to the people around you and making sure that you're actively helping them achieve the things that they are trying to achieve.
Okay. And so what would be an indicator to you that you really are getting it right?
I mean, my favorite thing is when people that are in my organization leave because they've outgrown the team, right? If I know I've done a good job when someone who, maybe was blocked because they're not confident enough or wanted it to acquire a new skill, and I helped them achieve that skill. And then I didn't have any more, if I don't have any more space in my organization for them to grow, they grow by leaving, going somewhere else. And to me, that's the best validation, right? When someone can advance beyond um, what they were doing with me is the best, because it means that you know, they've done everything. I've done everything I can to help them meet their
Mhm.
potential in my org, and so now they're going to keep growing somewhere else. It's just the best feeling.
And that is a very healthy perspective on people leaving your company. But I think, yeah, there's truth to it. I mean, it is really, I have also experienced that it's gratifying when you see, um, just when you see people expand and grow and really step into like the next phase or chapter of themselves. And sometimes your organization isn't the right place for that. And that's totally okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's not because you don't want them on your, to keep growing inside your team. It just
Mhm.
might be, budget constraints or just the nature of the business.
Mhm.
Just doesn't There's just not space for it. There's all sorts of things that we can't control, right? So,
Mhm.
um, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah, so it's but my job still as a leader is to help people reach their full potential, because that's how my team can function at its best, right? And be a high performing team. And
Mhm.
so, sometimes that drives incredible loyalty when I almost have to like push people out, right? Um, and because I care about them. Leading with empathy means that you actually care about that person
Mhm.
that you're trying to develop. And so, just sometimes I have to tell people, like, I can't give you any more opportunities. It's just, I'm limited at my resource. Uh,
Mhm.
and so, you will grow more if you, go somewhere else.
Mhm. Yeah, interesting. So you have, I think you've had a good number of years in leadership positions in different kinds of environments and organizations. And I'm sure your leadership has grown through that process. And I'm interested in maybe an example of a challenge that you faced as a leader that ended up turning you into a better leader.
I mean, I think we all grow through our challenges, right? It's like when you're in the fire is when you develop the most. And the thing that I found working at a very, very large global organization is that oftentimes the structures and the incentives are not aligned and don't facilitate true teamwork.
Mhm.
Um, and that for me has always been a big challenge. And when I was in a position where I had a partner who had different incentives, uh, and we were trying to work together, it just, it doesn't work. And then when that doesn't work, and it's not, we liked each other as humans. We just, we're like moving in different
Being
directions.
pulled in different directions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that trickles down, right? So that creates a sense of discomfort and conflict within the team.
Mhm.
And so that was one of the most challenging situations that I was in. And I learned a lot about how, like, what does culture really mean, right? Um, and how can you create an environment where people are having fun and can find like the light side of things, even when the stressors seem extreme.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I explored and experimented with lots of different things, including bringing in an improv coach for my team, and it really helped a lot. It really helped the team feel more unified. We did all sorts of things like, we would identify the top priorities for the quarter of soft skills, right? So we need to learn to give more space to others, or say yes and, right? That was from our improv coach.
Mhm.
And then we would, come down to 4 for the whole team, and then each team member would choose one that they were going to commit to improving in themselves for the quarter. And then we would have an
Mhm.
accountability buddy. And the way that we worked is like in a 2-week cadence. Every 2 weeks, we'd come back as a full team and all 50 people and talk about what happened the last 2 weeks, what's the plan for next 2 weeks. And in that, there's always time to meet with your buddy and talk about, how did you practice making space for others in the last 2 weeks?
Mm.
And so I think that was really empowering for people too, I think, to feel like they have an active role to play in changing the culture of the place.
It's interesting. There's a lot of things in there. One is this idea of like incentive drives behavior, which is something I also have definitely seen. And even I do a lot of training in organizations, and I have, had organizations hire me or teams that I've worked with to do training, and then I realized that the organization is incentivizing the opposite behavior, what we're being brought in to train people in.
Mm-hmm.
And I have learned, well, one, to have conversations about that, and really explicit conversations. Like, if, basically it's a waste of money.
Yeah.
If the incentive structures don't change. And that's a very real thing. And sometimes you can influence that and sometimes you can't. And I think what I hear from you is that you had a situation where there were opposing incentives, and it created maybe some tension or a dynamic. And then you worked on a bunch of strategies for trying to improve the culture in light of that. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. So we have this like overarching umbrella that creates the way that's designed, creates conflict. But then within that, I have my own bubble. Right? So I
Mm-hmm.
can try as much as I can to improve what's happening in that bubble. But the bubble it's still impacted, right? I can never get to the level of collaboration and teamwork that I want, because everybody's still aware of what's happening around them. They can see outside, right? So they never fully feel safe. So no matter what I do and how much I work to create a safe environment for my team, for the organization that I'm responsible for, if the rest of the company and the rest of the organization is not doing similar things, then I can only get so far.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So real life constraints, and then trying to work within that to impact like the environment that the team is working in.
Yeah.
And it also sounded like, you started out talking about values. And what I heard is that you were really leaning into a couple of values with some of the practices that you were creating with your team, like maybe a value around like personal growth and development, and also a value around accountability.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
There's a lot of like ideas. I try to separate ideas and beliefs. So ideas are flexible. You can change with new information. Beliefs are core, and it's, you put on that's where cognitive dissonance comes in. Like if someone holds something as a belief, like I believe, the world is flat. It doesn't matter how much you tell them or scientific evidence you give, the cognitive dissonance is there. But if you think maybe the world is flat, it's an idea that I hold on to for now, then, you're more flexible to when you get new information to share. So I try to really limit the number of beliefs that I have. Like actively try to make them as small as possible. And I think that's where like the core values come in, right? It's like, what are those like really, really core things that no matter what someone tells you, you're not going to move, right?
Your must-haves.
Yeah. And then you hold on to those, and then that's what drives you, right? That's what drives your behavior. That's what drives your outlook, and informs everything else.
Well, so you were just talking about things that you had been doing to try to create a better, say, environment or culture for your team. What's something that you have done or do to unleash the leadership abilities of the people around you? Because as you know, a leader is, as I like to say, the sum of their parts, right? Like
Yeah.
it's all about maximizing and leveraging the people around you and what you can do together.
Definitely. And so one of the things that I think is the most fun part of being in a leadership position is getting to know the people in my team and trying to figure out that it's like a puzzle. Like, what's the thing that's blocking them? right? And sometimes it's negative past experiences that they're carrying, and so they have assumptions about what you're going to be like as a manager. Sometimes it's a lack of confidence. They have the skills, they want to do well, they're just just don't believe in themselves for one reason, and that could have nothing to do with what's happened at work. That could be a childhood thing, right? And I find it's really prevalent in women, actually. So I'm always like very attuned to that. And then, or it could just be like a lack of technical skill that's easy to solve, relatively easy to solve. Or it could just, maybe they just, need some minor adjustments, right? So I had one person on my team who just was like, I want to be authentic. And so, and I was trying to tell her, well, you need to change the way you communicate depending on what you're saying and who you're saying it to. And she felt like that was being inauthentic. And I had to sort of, we talked, I had this great coach once that said, sometimes you're in a room of dogs, like dogs just are happy and like whatever you do, they're going to be happy. So if you're like giving a speech at a conference, everyone's excited to see you, can't wait to hear what you're saying. So you can be that way, right? You can be exuberant and like big hands and fully excited. And sometimes you're in a room of cats, right? They don't trust you. They don't trust each other. They're like super analytical, like, questioning everything that comes out of your mouth. And so then you need to become a cat. And it's not a question of being authentic or not. It's just recognizing where you are and what's appropriate for that particular audience. Right? So it's just a little tweak, right? It's just like a little bit of a tune-up. And then once that clicked, then, like everything becomes so much easier. So yeah. And then depending on where people are, it's like different things can help different people.
So there were a couple of things in there. One is how you might cultivate or unleash the leadership in another person is very bespoke. So you're really trying to get to know the people that report to you, or maybe even beyond that, and like identifying an area that if they were able to adjust it would increase their impact, or how they show up. And then that becomes the thing that you focus on trying to help them with, which is amazing. Lucky people to have you as their leader. And then I also like that example of helping, a particular person, but maybe other people too, like understand the difference between, it's like authenticity and influence. And that influence is critical for leadership and for getting anything done in an organization, and really tailoring how you communicate to your audience, and really thinking. So it's very, I come from the world of design, and we're always like thinking from the perspective of customers or the people that we're solving problems for. Same thing with communication internally. It's like putting yourself in your shoes and then thinking about how to adjust.
And same thing with leadership, right? It's like the same thing no matter what level you're talking about. Like whether you're trying to understand a customer segment or customer base to solve their problem, or you're trying to influence the decisions being made in a room, or you're having a one-on-one conversation with someone trying to help them get unblocked, right? It's all the same thing. It's all, you have to understand. It's that empathy thing, right? It's like the first part of design thinking. You have to really understand what's going on with them before you can start doing the how might we statements, right? It's the same thing.
Well, that feels like a great place to close on this idea of like empathy and tailoring your leadership, I think, to different audiences too. Thank you so much for making time to talk and to share a little bit of your perspective on leadership and your experiences. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it was so fun. I really enjoyed speaking with you today. And thank you for giving me the chance to chat with you.
Yeah. And for those of you who are watching, if you are interested in other interviews with other amazing human beings like Gazelle, there is more of that along with leadership tools on my website, which you can find at teresabrazen.com. Thank you so much.